What's going on, guys? So, Vinland Saga Season 2, Episode 13. Of course, this begins with our new opening song that we're going to get for the second half of Season 2. And I gotta be honest, I like the song. However, I was vibing with River. Like, really, really hard. I don't know. I became very attached to that song. Every Monday morning when I woke up, I just heard the song in my head because I knew I was going to watch Vinland Saga later. And granted, I had 12 weeks to digest that song. So maybe the new opening song will it'll grow on me more. I like it. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. I like it. But River, it felt so powerful, man. It felt so like whimsical. Like I'm like literally that scene where in the opening where Thorfinn is sinking within the ocean. That's how I felt when I listened to it, man. So new one is good. It shows a lot of shit in the opening credits. Now I get that if you haven't read the manga, it's not going to seem like a spoiler, but there's a lot of things that you would probably call spoilers in the opening credits. So I'm actually a little bit shocked with how much they actually showed. But I suppose out of context, if you're watching it, the scenes go by really fast. You can't really tell who's who. There's a lot of things going on there that you might not be able to pick up on. But watching it, I'm like, oh shit. Well, there's the second half of the season, or at least a large chunk of it. It's also a lot more violent, and I think that they might be kind of like gearing up because the arc itself is going to ramp up and become a little bit more action heavy as it reaches its second half and the climax and everything. So they might be trying to like amp people up to get them ready and get them prepared for the intensity that is about to befall the farm of Kettle. Now, speaking of which, I mentioned in the last couple episode reviews that the anime decided to take a different approach in the manga when it came to the series of events that is happening, because we have Kettle going to visit what he thinks is King Harold and then finding out that Harold is dead and he has to talk to Canute. And then on the other flip side of that, there is a lot of shit happening and going down at the farm. So two bad things are happening at the same time and will eventually collide with one another. So the things that are happening on the farm, those things happen kind of intercut within the manga. So if you want to know what chapters this episode adapts, it's a little bit difficult to say because it adapts the ending of chapter 73, the beginning of chapter 74, but then it jumps all the way to chapter 79. So that's kind of the chapters that it's adapting. Also in the manga, see in the scene where Kettle comes up to Thorfinn and Einar, and he talks about how when he gets back from his trip, maybe he'll free them and stuff, and we'll kind of discuss the details when I get back. And it left on that serious cliffhanger. In the manga, like directly after that is when they go to Svedkil's hut, and then Snake is there looking for him. He's hungry. He's like, "Where's the old man?" So that all flows at the same time in the manga. So this episode introduces us to the character of Garner, and I love this character so much. I love his story. I love the entire dynamic, and I love the wild card that he plays when he's introduced to the characters that are on this farm. Now, you don't get a whole lot about him in this episode, so I won't spoil anything about him. However, at the end of this episode, it is revealed that he was looking for Arnid, and he calls Arnid his wife. So I think you can kind of put two and two together and see how this is going to cause a shit ton of friction. I like the idea of having this escaped slave because if you look at Vinland Saga as looking at the worst that humanity has to offer, if you look at season 1 looking and focusing on the aspect of war, that's what season 1 was all about. It was about war. It was about the politics of war, the casualties of war, what war does to people, how people view war in this society and in this culture. And that's what it was. And that's like the one horrific aspect of humanity is wanting to have war. And the other horrific aspect that Vinland Saga tackles is slavery. So if you look at the seasons like that or the arcs like that, we have one that tackles war, we have one that tackles slavery, and then after that we kind of combined the issues together and move forward. So this season is focusing purely on slavery and the horrible things that happen along those lines, while at the same time also having Canute's business. So war is still a factor, but you get what I'm saying. That's why I like the added addition that they did with Einar and seeing his backstory a little bit more fleshed out in the anime as well, is because those are the kind of things that happened and you tear families apart. It's not just the fact that having a human being as your property is bad, but it's also that you rip them away from everything that they knew. Even in the beginning of this episode, Thorfinn asks Einar, "What are you planning on doing once you become free?" And he's not even sure, because what do you do when you become free? I mean, your family is gone, or if your family wasn't murdered, you're definitely estranged from them, and you don't have like social media to look them up and see where they are. So you're starting out with no money, no resources, no connections, no social circle to tie you in. So just being freed in itself, so being a slave isn't bad enough, but then when you are freed, you're left with, what the hell do I even do? And then on the other side of that, if the families aren't killed in order to have some people become slaves, if they don't take the women and children and then, sell the men off or kill the men or whatever it is, sometimes they'll take them both. And it's very, very rare, of course, that you would have like a family still together once they get sold off into slavery. And of course, you would want them kind of apart. And sometimes it's even a vindictive thing to do. Like it's some kind of like sick pleasure in order to tear a family apart or tear a man and his wife apart. And that's kind of what happened with Garner and Arneed. And so you see that happened and they got pulled apart, and Arneed wound up in Ketel's farm, and she's treated, how do I want to put this? Well, but at the same time, if she had a husband that she was taken from, and Ketel forces Arneed to comfort him or do other things with him. Remember, in the anime, the scene where Ketel is crying and consolidating himself within the lap of Arneed, she was clothed. In the manga, she's topless. So that would infer to me that Ketel also has sex with her. This is the problem. So as gentle and lenient as a slave owner as Ketel may be, at the same time, he is in bed with another man's wife who he now deems as his property. And I get, at the time, Vinland Saga takes place, slavery was more culturally normal, but you can see how that's an issue and kind of throws a wrench in the idea that Ketel is just a good person. He happens to own slaves, but he's nice to them. But slavery has also broken and made Garner bitter to the point where he rebelled and killed his slave owner. And he killed a bunch of people, and he set the house ablaze, and now he is on a desperate search for his wife. The tirade and the massacre that he was willing to dish out to the world in search of her is all in response to the situation that happened to him. We get more of Garner's backstory, as time will go on, but you can definitely see how that would cause a man to reach the kind of deepest depths of darkness and rage that a man could possibly reach. Imagine having a wife being torn away from her, sold into slavery, she's sold somewhere else, and now you're forced to obey and comply, which apparently, it's talked about that his master wasn't like Ketel was. He was a lot more of an asshole when it came to owning a slave and using them as property, and a lot more vicious towards them. So that's just kind of the luck of the draw. But again, is it really luck when you have this extra context now and you see what Ketel is doing with Arneed? My point is, both are bad, but in different ways. And now Garner is coming and looking for his wife, and he stumbled upon Ketel's farm. And just like in the manga, the anime didn't cut out anything where the Snake's men are kind of bickering with one another back and forth, and then Garner just stands over him. It's really funny for a second, but then Garner attacks, and just in the manga, I just checked, it does cut away, which is the same thing it did in the anime. But Garner isn't messing around. He's not fooling around. He's not fucking around. He's not telling jokes. He's not putting up with jokes. Like, he's on a serious mission. He is one-track minded at this point, and he's going to do whatever he possibly can to get his woman back. But he is kind of kept in the background of this episode. The main focus is hanging out at Svedkul's hut and seeing the old man in the very beginning. He's out in the fields and he hurts himself. He falls over, and so Snake has to go get him. They have Arneed come over in order to cook for him, to make him a bunch of food. And we have this kind of nice, wholesome moment of Thorfinn, Einar, Arneed, Svedkul, and Snake all just kind of hanging out, eating dinner together, and they're all kind of laughing at the old man because he's very proud. He doesn't want to be force-fed. He doesn't want somebody else to have to hold his spoon to feed him. He doesn't want somebody else. This is why he's always been working himself. He always finds that pride and value in doing the work. Even though there are slaves on the farm, he is the one that has like this pride within it, with this pride within himself for being able to do it and not wanting to just hand it over to somebody else all the time. And I kind of feel for him, and I understand, because one of my greatest fears is being an old man to the point where you can't really do anything for yourself. Physical fitness is very important to me, And I dread the day that, I can't walk, or I wind up crippled and old, and like, just my bones aren't strong enough to hold me, or my hips give out, or my legs give out, and I'm not able to do the things that I want to be able to do. And Svedkul, as he sits in bed and he thinks about, no, I have to, I forget what he says, but it's like something with the hay, like I have to go do something with that. And he tries to stand up and he can't. And I feel that, man, because when I'm terrified of that. I'm terrified of that future. And it comes for us all. You can't escape it, and you kind of have to accept it, and you have to accept that other people are there to. He does have people to take care of him, but it's a hard thing to accept when you've done everything yourself for your entire life. But anyways, the episode ends on that epic cliffhanger as the characters are hanging out outside. Snake is reading the Bible to the old man. Thorfinn's listening. Of course, it's it has a relation to the plot as well, where it's talking about forgiving your enemies. And just the same, Garner has just slain all of his enemies, and he is here and arrives, and Arnede, sees him, and she's just like dumbfounded. For all she knows, he was probably dead. I mean, he is probably like the kind of guy that in war you probably would have wanted to kill him rather than sell him off, because he's strong, capable, he's a fighter. Like, that's the kind of character that would rebel. So buy your slave at your own risk, my friend. But he's here and he sees her and he's just like, my wife, and fuck. So I thought this was a great episode. I thought they did a fantastic job. I haven't had really any complaints with the animation or anything much about the anime so far, to be honest. But I'm happy with what we get. I'm used to really, really bad adaptations, as you can see. So Vinland Saga definitely has the benefit of having great animation, great music, great voice acting, and everything that I could possibly want out of adapting one of my favorite manga arcs of all time. So let me know what you guys thought of this episode. If you guys are anime only, leave your theories, thoughts, and opinions about what's going to happen next on the farm. We got Snake there. He's like, oh fuck, my sword's inside. The other characters are coming. He killed one of Snake's men. He's there. He's got a sword. He's got a horse. Arnede. Like, shit's gonna go down, man, and I can't wait for it. So let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Let me know what you think of the new opening song. How do you think of Garner as a character so far? I know you really didn't get to see much of him other than just murdering a bunch of people, but are you excited? Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching this episode, or this YouTube review of this episode. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have a Patreon, merch store, and channel memberships that you can turn on. I got a special video up on Patreon right now where I react to Berserk 2016. So if you want to see my reaction to Berserk 2016, go ahead and become a patron. I'm trying to get that video up for my channel members as well, but of course YouTube is giving me copyright issues, so I'm going to try. As of right now, it's only on Patreon, but I'm going to try to get it up for my members too. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.